Midnight shift with two alien shopworker. Backroom confession. The unexpected arrival. The Desert Rose Diner sat like a glowing beacon against the endless stretch of Nevada highway, its vintage neon sign buzzing rhythmically in the darkness. Marcus Webb wiped down the counter for the third time that hour, his reflection staring back from the polished chrome surface. At 28, managing the midnight shift wasn't exactly the life he'd imagined, but it paid the bills and offered the solitude he'd grown to appreciate. Thunder rolled across the desert, and rain began pelting the large windows. Marcus glanced at the clock. 2:47 a.m. The highway was deserted, as usual. Then the bell above the door chimed. Two women stepped inside, their clothes soaked through, hair plastered to their faces. But it wasn't the storm that made Marcus pause mid-wipe. Something about them seemed off, though he couldn't quite place it. The taller one had an almost ethereal quality, her movements too fluid, too graceful. Her companion was shorter, with dark hair that seemed to shift colors under the fluorescent lights. "Welcome to Desert Rose," Marcus called out, grabbing menus. "Rough night to be out." The taller woman smiled, and Marcus felt his breath catch. Even drenched and shivering, she was stunning. "You have no idea," she said, her voice carrying a melodic quality that seemed to resonate in his chest. "I'm Zara, and this is my sister Nix." Nix nodded but remained silent, her eyes scanning the diner with what looked like fascination and wariness. They took a booth near the back, away from the windows. "Coffee?" Marcus offered, approaching with the pot already in hand. "Please," Zara answered, wrapping her hands around the cup he poured. Her skin seemed to shimmer for just a moment in the light, like oil on water. Marcus blinked, certain he'd imagined it. As the night wore on, Marcus couldn't help stealing glances at the sisters. They spoke in hushed tones, occasionally gesturing toward the parking lot. When Zara's phone rang, she jumped, and the entire diner's lights flickered. The old jukebox in the corner suddenly blared to life, playing a song nobody had selected. "Sorry," Zara said quickly, her cheeks flushing an unusual shade of violet, before returning to normal. "Static electricity from the storm." Marcus's instincts told him there was more to this story, but he found himself wanting to know everything about the mysterious woman with the impossible smile. Secrets revealed. The last customer left around 3:30 a.m., leaving Marcus alone with the two sisters. He flipped the sign to closed and returned to find Zara staring at her reflection in the window, touching her face as though checking a mask. "We need your help," she said suddenly, turning to face him. The vulnerability in her voice made Marcus's chest tighten. "With what, exactly?" He set down 3 fresh cups of coffee, sliding into the booth across from them. Nix exchanged a glance with her sister, a silent conversation passing between them. Finally, Zara took a deep breath. "What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but I promise it's the truth. We're not from around here." Marcus chuckled. "Yeah, I figured you were tourists, or—" "Not from around Earth," Zara interrupted softly. The words hung in the air. Marcus waited for the punchline, but it never came. Both sisters watched him with an intensity that made his skin prickle. "You're telling me you're aliens?" He tried to keep his tone light, but something in their expressions made him hesitate. Instead of answering, Zara reached up and touched her eye. When her hand moved away, her iris had transformed from ordinary brown to a stunning violet with golden flecks that seemed to swirl like a galaxy. Marcus nearly dropped his coffee cup. "We're from Aethra, a planet in the Andromeda system." Nix spoke for the first time, her voice lower than her sister's but equally musical. "Our ship malfunctioned during a research mission. We crashed about 5 miles from here." Marcus's rational mind fought against what he was seeing. This is a prank, some kind of contact lenses, or— Zara placed her hand on the table, and her skin began to emit a soft bioluminescent glow, patterns like constellations appearing across her forearm. "Does this look like a prank, Marcus?" He stared, unable to form words. The glow faded, and Zara's skin returned to its human appearance, but her eyes remained that impossible violet. "Our cloaking device is damaged. It's what allows us to appear fully human. Without it repaired, we can't maintain the disguise much longer, and if anyone else sees us like this—"
Why tell me? Marcus managed to ask, his world tilting on its axis. Because you seem kind, Zara said simply. And because I saw the way you looked at that elderly couple earlier, how you gave them free pie when you thought no one was watching. We need someone with a good heart. Their eyes met across the table, and Marcus felt something shift inside him. This incredible, impossible woman was trusting him with a secret that could change everything. What do you need?
Growing connection. The next 2 hours passed in a blur as Zara and Nix explained their situation. Their ship needed specific materials to repair the cloaking device, copper wiring, certain crystals that could be found in electronics, and a power source. Marcus found himself volunteering to help before he'd fully processed what he was agreeing to. "The storage room has old equipment," he said, standing. "Let me show you." Zara followed him to the back, while Nix remained in the booth, monitoring the parking lot. The storage room was cramped, filled with broken appliances, extra supplies, and years of accumulated junk. Marcus pulled the chain on the single hanging bulb, casting everything in warm yellow light. "Tell me about Aethra," Marcus said as he pried open a box of old radios, handing Zara the copper components she needed. She smiled, her violet eyes softening. "It's beautiful. 3 moons, purple skies, oceans that sing at night." Her voice grew wistful. "But it's also rigid. Everything is ordered, planned, controlled. I've never felt as free as I did walking into your diner tonight." "Even soaking wet and stranded?" Marcus teased, surprised by his own boldness. Zara laughed, a sound like wind chimes. "Especially then." She stepped closer, examining a circuit board he'd handed her. Their fingers brushed, and Marcus felt a warmth spread from the point of contact, like sunlight on skin. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Anything." "Why research Earth? Of all the planets out there?" Zara set down the components, turning to face him fully in the cramped space. "Because you feel things so purely. Humans experience joy, sadness, love, all these emotions, and you don't let them consume you. You find balance." She paused, her expression growing intense. "Aetherans feel everything 100 times stronger. It's why we're taught from birth to suppress, to control." "That sounds lonely," Marcus said softly. "It is." Her voice is barely a whisper now. "Until I met you." The confession hung between them, electric and dangerous. Marcus knew he should step back, maintain distance, be rational. Instead, he found himself moving closer. "Zara, we just met a few hours ago. For Aetherans, emotional connections happen instantaneously or not at all," she explained, her eyes searching his face. "When I walked through that door and saw you, it was like recognizing someone I'd been waiting my whole life to find." Marcus' heart hammered against his ribs. "I felt it too," he admitted. "I thought it was going crazy." Her hand rose to his cheek, her touch gentle but leaving trails of warmth. "This is dangerous for me, Marcus. Forbidden, even. But I can't seem to stop myself." In the cluttered storage room, surrounded by the debris of ordinary life, Marcus leaned in, stopping just before their lips met. "Tell me to stop, and I will." "Don't stop," she breathed, and closed the distance between them. The kiss was unlike anything Marcus had ever experienced. Tender, yet intense. Familiar, yet utterly alien. Zara's emotions seemed to flow into me through the contact, overwhelming and intoxicating. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. "We should get back to Nix," Zara said reluctantly, though neither of them moved. "Yeah," Marcus agreed, his hand still resting on her waist. "We should."
The backroom confession. They returned to find Nix pacing near the window, her expression troubled. "We have a problem," she said without preamble. "The authorities from Aethra have noticed our ship's distress signal. They'll be here by dawn to retrieve us." Zara's face paled. "How long do we have?" "Maybe 3 hours." Nix's gaze flickered between her sister and Marcus, understanding dawning in her eyes. "Zara, tell me you haven't—" I need to talk to Marcus, Zara interrupted, her voice firm. Alone. Please, Nix. Her sister hesitated, then nodded slowly. I'll work on the repairs. You have 20 minutes. The warning in her tone was clear. Zara led Marcus back to the storage room, closing the door behind them. In the intimate space, she seemed to gather her courage before speaking. There's something I haven't told you about Aethran biology, she began, her violet eyes glistening. When we form a deep emotional bond with someone, especially someone from another species, it creates a permanent neurological connection. Our brain chemistry changes irreversibly. Marcus leaned against the shelves, trying to process. What does that mean? It means that what I feel for you, what's happening between us, it's not just attraction or infatuation. Her voice cracked slightly. If I continue down this path, if I let myself love you, I can never go home. The Aethran Council would detect the change in my neural patterns immediately. They'd consider me contaminated, compromised. I'd be exiled permanently. The weight of her words hit Marcus like a physical blow. You'd lose everything. Your family, your world, your entire life. Yes. A single tear traced down her cheek, shimmering with that strange bioluminescence. And the worst part is, I'm standing here knowing all of that, and I still can't walk away from you. He pushed off the shelves, closing the distance between them. Zara, we've known each other for a few hours. You can't throw away your whole life for what? A stranger? She laughed bitterly. That's what my logical mind keeps screaming. But Aethran emotional bonds don't follow human timelines, Marcus. When we connect, it's absolute, complete. I could spend 1,000 years searching the galaxy and never feel this again. He cupped her face in his hands, forcing himself to be the rational one, even as his heart rebelled. Then we stop this now, before it goes too far. You repair your ship, you go home, and you forget about the lonely diner manager who... Zara kissed him fiercely, cutting off his words. When she pulled back, her eyes blazed with determination and desperation. It's already too far, Marcus. Don't you understand? The moment I saw you, the moment you smiled at me, it was already done. You're saying you've already bonded with me? His voice was hoarse. The process began the instant we touched, she whispered, taking his hand and placing it over her heart. Beneath his palm, he could feel an unusual rhythm, like two heartbeats intertwined. It will be complete by dawn. After that, there's no reversing it. Marcus felt torn in two. The practical part of him knew this was insane, helping an alien woman commit social suicide for a connection that defied all logic. But another part, the part that had always felt like something was missing from his mundane life, recognized this moment as the one he'd been waiting for. What if you regret it? He asked quietly. What if a year from now you hate me for what you gave up? Zara's laugh was watery but genuine. Aethrans can't hate what they've bonded to, Marcus. It's biologically impossible. I could only ever love you more deeply. She paused, vulnerability flooding her features. But you haven't told me how you feel. I'm standing here ready to abandon everything, and I don't even know if you want me to stay. Marcus pulled her close, breathing in her unusual scent like ozone and night-blooming flowers. I feel like I've been sleepwalking through life, and you just woke me up. I feel terrified and exhilarated and completely out of my depth. He pulled back to look at her. And I feel like if you leave, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering what if. Then ask me to stay, she whispered against his lips. I can't. It's too selfish. Then I'll stay anyway, Zara said, and kissed him with a passion that felt like stardust and promises, sealing both their fates in the fluorescent glow of a desert diner's back room.
A choice between worlds. Dawn painted the desert sky in shades of amber and rose as Marcus stood outside the diner, watching Nix make final adjustments to something he couldn't see. The cloaked ship sat in the parking lot, invisible to anyone passing by, but he could hear the faint hum of its engines. Zara emerged from the diner,
Having changed into clothes Marcus had brought from his apartment, jeans and a simple blue sweater that made her look almost ordinary. Almost. "It's ready," Nix announced, her expression unreadable. "The council ship will be here within the hour. We need to make a decision." Marcus and Zara stood facing each other as the desert wind whipped around them. The weight of the choice pressed down on both their shoulders. "Come with us," Zara said suddenly, desperately. "You could see Aethra, experience things no human has ever—" "You know I can't," Marcus interrupted gently. "My mom is in a care facility in Phoenix. My sister depends on me. I have responsibilities here, people who need me." "And I have responsibilities there," Zara countered, but her voice lacked conviction. "My research, my family, my position in the council." "Which you'll lose the moment you return," Nix interjected quietly. "Zara, your neural bond is complete. I can see it in your eyes, in the way you move toward him like a planet to a sun. They'll detect it immediately and exile you anyway. At least if you stay here, you choose your exile." Zara turned to her sister, shock and hope warring on her face. "You're saying I should stay?" Nix's expression softened in a way Marcus hadn't seen before. "I'm saying that I've watched you follow every rule, meet every expectation, suppress every feeling for 27 years. And in one night with this human, I've seen you more alive than ever." She glanced at Marcus. "He's kind, he's genuine, and somehow he makes you brave enough to choose yourself for once. That's worth everything." "But you'll be alone," Zara protested, tears streaming now. "I'll tell them the crash was worse than we thought, that you didn't survive," Nix said firmly. "I'll mourn you properly, and I'll carry the memory of my sister who dared to love across the stars. It's a better story than watching you fade away in compliance." The sisters embraced, whispering words in their native language that sounded like music and goodbye. Marcus turned away, giving them privacy, his own eyes stinging. When they finally separated, Nix approached Marcus. "Take care of her. She's choosing a harder path than you can imagine." "I will," he promised. "I swear it." Nix nodded once, then disappeared into the shimmering air where their ship waited. Moments later, a gust of wind and a sound like singing glass told them she'd gone. Zara stood trembling, watching the empty sky where her sister had vanished. Marcus wrapped his arms around her from behind, and she leaned into him. "No regrets?" he asked softly. "Thousands," she admitted with a shaky laugh. "But none of them outweigh this." She turned in his arms, her violet eyes meeting his. "I chose love, Marcus. I chose feeling everything, even the pain. That's the most human thing I could do. And the most Aethran thing is feeling it 100 times stronger," he reminded her. "Then I'll love you 100 times more than any human could, for 100 times longer, across 100 different lifetimes if they exist." As the sun fully rose over the desert, Marcus kissed her again, tasting salt from her tears and the promise of a future neither of them could predict. The diner's neon sign flickered off, its night shift ending, but for Marcus and Zara, everything was just beginning. They walked back inside together, hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next. Immigration questions, identity documents, the challenge of building a life together across impossible odds. But none of it seemed insurmountable anymore. Love, whether human or alien, was always a leap of faith into the unknown. The only difference was how far you were willing to fall.